So hi guys, my name's Adam Harris and I help people overcome loneliness and build a social life. And listen, I don't want to be one of these people that comes on YouTube and talks about themselves, so I'm going to try not to do that too much in my video series, which will be following this. So hopefully stay tuned if you like the cut of my jib, as we say in England. But yeah, as I say, fundamentally I help people overcome loneliness and build a social life. And what I wanted to do in today's video was to just give some context as to why this is so important to me, and why I have embarked on this journey, and why I became so fascinated by loneliness and developing solutions to overcome it. So I thought, given that I don't want to be one of these people that talks about themselves incessantly, the aim will be for me to give a series of tips and insight into how to overcome loneliness and then build a social life. But for contextual sake, I just want to tell you about how I came to be so interested in this. And it all started when I was a young boy, about 9 years old. My parents divorced, and my two older brothers were, left home, gone off traveling, and my father met a younger woman, ran off with her, and my mother met a gentleman from another country, and she had ended up emigrating to another country, and I was left completely isolated. I was sent to what we call in England a boarding school in a remote parts of the north of England, and that was kind of it. It was just, all of a sudden, 9 years old. It was pretty shocking to look back on it. But, what that meant is it set me on a path, if you like, a journey of dealing with loneliness and dealing with the kind of entire spectrum of it. When I was at school, you're at school, you really don't know too much different. I mean, in my case, I'd known a home life, but, I was still relatively young. And it wasn't really until I got into my 20s that I realized that, and I kind of had a problem forming meaningful relationships. Now, that abandonment had hit me very, very hard. And, I had grown, obviously, through distance and time, very far apart from my family. Had almost no relationship with my father, a telephone-based relationship with my mother, which was not meaningful at all, and did not see my brothers at all. Had no other real family that were involved in my life whatsoever. So as I say, I got into my 20s, and throughout my 20s and and into my 30s, I had no idea that loneliness was a thing. This is the crazy part about it, is that I had absolutely no idea that loneliness could be the cause of so many issues in one's life. What I had experienced was, a deep sense of disconnection from the world around me, not really able to kind of find my tribe, if you like, my people. And my response to that kind of whole situation was to just change everything constantly, all the time, for a long time. So I would change relationships, girlfriends, I would change my job, I would change my career, I would change my apartment, I would change country, I would change almost everything conceivable about my life over and over and over again in search of some kind of meaningful connection and satisfaction of the, you know, the world, not the world around me, but the, you know, obviously the connections that I had around me. And that was my subconscious way of dealing with this. And it was crazy. I mean, I've lived in, at the last count, I think it was something like 12 or 13 different countries. Maybe it's more than that. You know, an incalculable amount of different apartments, a lot of different relationships. I've had lots of different jobs. I've largely stuck to similar kind of careers, but I've changed jobs a lot and kind of changed industries and things like that, just in search of something else that I, you know, that my inner self wasn't being connected to. And it was, I think it's at the extreme that I dealt with it. You know, not everybody deals with loneliness in that way. But, you know, I feel like I had a pretty extreme circumstance that set me on that path. And I dealt with it in that way, not really knowing what else to do. And not knowing that loneliness was the root cause of it all. You know, I'd even been diagnosed with depression, with anxiety, and all these sorts of things. And, you know, obviously, doctors in this day and age, they treat you with medication, and so you try that, and that doesn't really solve the problem because it's not the root cause, right? So you just end up numbing whatever, you know, positive emotion that you probably have out of existence. And none of that worked for me, and I didn't really stick to any of that. But ultimately, you know, it set me on a journey of fascination. You know, after a certain period of time, I just thought, you know what, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy what I'm doing here. You know, I'm hop, skipping, jumping all over the place in search of some kind of connection. The connection has to come from within me. You know, it's not an external thing. It's not a new country or a new girlfriend or a new friend or you know, rebuilding a relationship with one's family or a new job. It's none of that. It has to come from within. And, you know, first of all, you've got to understand what the problem is. So that was the first thing for me, was to start understanding what loneliness actually was, why we feel it, you know, where it originates from, and why it causes the sets of feelings that we have around it, and then why it starts to be a decisive factor in the decision-making processes that we make. So for me, that was important. So I've dedicated, I mean, I've read thousands of hours worth of research and books, and, you know, I've really understood this problem down to its, you know, extreme granularity. So for me, it was about understanding the problem so that then I could start developing solutions to overcome it. And that's really what I've done, is developed a process that I think can be, well, I know actually, you know, I know it can be applied to anybody because, you know, I've helped people work through this extremely successfully. So, you know, really it is just a step-by-step process of, you know, understanding, of changing your awareness of the situation, and then, you know, redefining one's views and one's, you know, mental architecture in order to then start implementing, you know, certain tactical implementations that you need to start building and then maintaining a social life. So it depends a little bit on, where you feel like your skill sets are lacking, for example. But it might be that you suffer from an extreme form of social anxiety, and that's preventing you from going out and making friendships. And then actually what happens is that you might then decide that it's, you're an introvert, okay, and then so you think that, all right, well, I'm an introvert, I'm better off alone. And so then you make a decision, because it feels more comfortable to spend time alone, you make a decision that either, all people are generally bad, or something like that, and you'd rather not socialize, or that you would just prefer to spend time on your own. And it's a pretty dangerous decision to make, especially, when you're relatively young. I think sort of before 60 is certainly very dangerous, because you've got a lot of life to live, and it's a long way to go on your own. And there's a reason why they put prisoners in solitary confinement, because it's a form of punishment. Loneliness is often trivialized. I don't like it. I was watching a TV show the other day here in Australia, where the hosts, they had a comedian on, and they were laughing about it and saying, just get up and go out and meet some people. Well, that is part of the solution, but it certainly trivializes the issue, and people become lonely for many, many different reasons. So the fact that they trivialize it down to that kind of singular solution, which is not right for many, many people, because as I say, it has to start from within yourself. You have to, first of all, understand. You have to raise your own awareness about it, and then you have to develop a series of solid foundations that then allow you to go out into the world and start to build a social life, and then to maintain that social life. And you've got to have a very solid base in place for this, not least of which because the world can be harsh. It can be harsh. And I speak to and work with people all the time who feel let down by everybody. They think everybody, doesn't put in the effort, that they're always trying and no one's reciprocating. And, they find out that, this group of people over there always go out and they don't invite them, and they feel really let down. And, there's a whole heap of expectations that people put on other people, and then obviously there's a societal expectation which is glamorized in Hollywood and on social media and all these things about what friendship should be and how people should treat each other and all this kind of stuff. But the reality is that the world's actually, it can be quite a difficult place to live in. But you have to have the solidity and the mental fortitude and the solid foundations to deal with all this stuff, so that when you do go out and start to try to build a social life, that you're not bothered by the people that don't put in the effort or don't reciprocate, or they aren't in some way perhaps at your level of moral code or understanding or whatever it is. That these things, they don't worry you. You navigate around them and you find different avenues and you keep going. But you've got to have a set of very specific, first of all, strategies that you employ and daily routines that you implement that enable you to have this personally solid foundation, a healthy view of the world, and a healthy paradigm that then allow you to, as I say, build and maintain a social life So, you know, it's taken me, you know, nearly 30 years, or actually almost exactly 30 years, to pick apart all of this and then develop this very clearly defined step-by-step process that anyone can employ to beat loneliness forever, to never feel lonely again, to actually enjoy and embrace spending time alone, but to also have a vibrant, active, positive social life on their own terms, whenever they want it, whenever they need it. And it really is just a process. But, you know, like anything, you know, you got to stick at it. And, you know, what I find amazing is that people put so much emphasis in this day and age into, you know, building wealth into retirement, for example, or you know, acquiring assets, or whatever it is. Same thing, wealth. But, you know, very little credence is placed upon, you know, building a social network, and I don't mean Facebook, I mean a real social network that you take into your throughout your adulthood, into your old age, and it's there as a support system, and well, not just a support system, but fun and entertainment, and, you know, a kind of a give-take scenario, so that you've got, and, you know, then you've also got a widely rounded social life, which it consists of maybe some closer friends who you can call upon, you know, anytime for meaningful debate or discussion, or to share kind of deeper feelings. And then you might have a wider group of friends, like your tribe, your posse, whatever you want to call it, who, you know, you get invited to social events and things like that, and it's all cool. But, you know, you're never going to get invited to stuff. You're never going to have those relationships if you're not the kind of person that other people who you want to be around, they want to be around you. And this is why you need to have these solid foundations, because, you know, relationships are mutual. You know, the way of the world is that people, you know, they want to feel good, and they want positive relationships around them. You know, your family, if you're going through a rough patch, are a good support system if you have a family. You know, I didn't. You know, I didn't growing up. I always had to rely on myself, and, you know, that made me quite insular. I've had to really work on that side of my character. I've had to really try and just be honest and open, and not really care if people you know, don't like me for it, but also, you know, not to the extreme, you know. So you've got to get, it's really, really good to get balance. You know, you've got to have balance in how you approach relationships. But, you know, as an example, if you're very, very introverted, you need to become slightly more extroverted if you want a social life. You know, it's just almost impossible to build any kind of social life if you are, you know, sat in the corner and, you know, playing with your iPhone. So you have to force yourself, you know, into this kind of different personality trait, if you like. And there's much, much more to it. But, you know, hopefully I've given you a little bit of an insight into my story, how I help people. And, you know, not only that, you know, not only do I coach people on a one-to-one basis. But I also run a community group where we run social events and we do all sorts of stuff, hiking and fishing, and we do dinners and lunches and coffees and all sorts of stuff. We also have an online community, and I'm also developing an online learning platform which will give people access to self-guided education on different modules of subject matters that relate to loneliness. We mentioned social anxiety before, so that would be a kind of a module that you could plug into and start to learn about social anxiety and then how to develop strategies to overcome it. So so the organisation I run is called Unalone, and I hope that you've enjoyed this kind of short video. Sorry, well, it's 20 minutes, but I hope you've enjoyed it, and it's given you some insight into who I am, and hopefully that my enthusiasm and my knowledge of the subject gives you some, confidence that I know what I'm talking about. And I really deeply care about loneliness, because it has been something that has affected my life profoundly. And I know, those deep, dark nights on the couch, on your own, staring at Netflix or whatever it is, just, with a black hole of despair almost, just boiled up inside you, that you just feel so alone. I know how that feels more than most people. And this is why it's so important to me. It's so profoundly important. And I don't want anyone out there to question my integrity over this. I know that some people who have been let down by a lot of other people, and then as a result they withdraw and they become lonely. They can also develop trust-related issues. And you can trust me. I care about this deeply, and I want to help you. So hopefully there's something here, something in the videos, something in the information that we publish on Unalone. The events won't probably likely be in an area near you, but hopefully coming to an area near you soon. And listen, if you like this video, sorry it's a bit static, not much going on in the background here, I'm just in my office, but if you like this video, comment in the section below, and I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. And I hope you watch out for the next video. Perhaps you would subscribe to my channel, wherever that button is, and I look forward to hearing from you and reading your comments. Thanks so much, everybody. Bye.